be with us. I welcome all of you to the 31st lecture of the Foundation Day lecture series of the Central Institute of Indian Languages. We are very happy to have with us Professor Karumuri Venkata Subbarao. Professor Subbarao, as he is known to many of us. As you know very well, Professor Subbarao does not need any introduction. Nevertheless, it's my duty and privilege to introduce him to this gathering, mainly because this lecture is being live streamed on YouTube. And as most of you know, the lectures are going to be archived for future use by younger generation. So it's important to know who is who. So let me introduce Professor Subbarao.
Very brief.
Yes, I'll try to be as brief as possible. I know that we have already lost some time.
I know.
So Professor, never mind. So Professor Subbarao was the professor and head of the Department of Linguistics at University of Delhi for several decades. He got his PhD from University of Illinois in 1974. He started working on syntax from that time. Noun phrase complementation in Hindi was the dissertation. His supervisor was Professor Yamuna Kachru. And of course, as most of you know, he has been working on syntax, on various aspects of generative syntax, Chomsky frameworks, right from government and binding to minimalist programs. And is well known for his typology of South Asian languages. He has a good command over several Dravidian languages, Hindi. He has worked on many languages of almost all language families of India. Today, he is going to talk about relative clauses in Tibeto-Burman with us. Since I'm asked to be brief, I will just tell a few things about him. He is an elected honorary member of the Linguistic Society of America and Nepal. 1 minute, please. So, and he was also the president of Linguistic Society of India for a term. He has several books to his credit. Most important book is South Asian Languages, a Syntactic Typology. And one book is under preparation, co-authored by Peribhaskar Rao and himself. Grammar of Telugu is coming soon by, I think it's going to be published by John Benjamins. He has worked on several tribal languages, published 65 papers and maybe many more, which is not listed in the 17-page CV I have with me. Since he is very eager to start his talk, on behalf of the Central Institute of Indian Languages and on behalf of everyone present here, welcome Professor Subbarao again. And now I give the floor to you. So Tejas, can you start sharing the slides? We have two parts of his talk. One will be in the PPT form, and once the PPT is over, we have a short Word file also to show. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to Professor Umarani for having given me this opportunity to present my talk today. And I'm so sorry for the mess up. I'm anyway not a technically savvy person, unlike our children and unlike the present generation. Okay, so there are two parts to my lecture. One is a general description of the relative clauses in Tibeto-Burman, where I'm going to talk about the relative clauses which have the head, which is plus definite. The second part of the talk would be on relative clauses where the head is minus definite. How are languages organizing a relative clause structure where the head is indefinite? For example, now let's go to slide 1, please. Slide 1. Can we go to slide 1? Yeah. Now, I don't want to talk about too much about the relevance of data and theory and all those things. Slide 2, please. Slide 2. Yeah. What is important about relative clauses, the significant point is nominalization of the embedded verb is the primary strategy. This was pointed out by Matisoff in 1972 on his work on Lahu. Later, there were a number of works and they all confirm to this kind of generalization. However, my work on our work on Cookeejian languages shows that it is not always the nominalized structure when you relativize the subject. So what I will show you the examples. So there is one exception. Otherwise, you take the direct object, indirect object, oblique object, any object you take. In all these cases, the verb is the embedded verb is non-finite. Another interesting part about this is there are two types of relative clauses. Most of the languages in the world have externally headed relative clauses like English, French, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Hindi, etc. However, there are a few languages which have the head internally in the embedded clause. What do I mean by internally? For example, the boy who came here is my friend. So you have in the embedded clause, the subject is now. Okay, the boy, null variable, came here, is my friend. So the boy you see there is the subject of the matrix clause here. Okay, but in an internally headed relative clause, what happens is the head stays, the head stays in the embedded clause. So the head will have case marking. In an externally headed relative clause, in no language of the world, you can have a case marking on the subject of the embedded clause, which is a null variable, and the verb is the one that connects to the thematic relation. Just a minute, let me repeat. So in no language of the world, you will have a case marker on the head in the embedded clause, then externally clause. Post position, yeah, maybe I should proceed, and when we come to that, we'll see. The embedded predicate in an EHRC or IHRC is finite. Okay, this I have done already. Next one, please. Next one. Yes, no. Now, what are the distinctive features of relative clauses? All Tibeto-Burman languages are SOV, and hence they are left branching. Okay, next one, please. All positions of the noun phrase accessibility hierarchy proposed by Keenan and Comrie are accessible for relativization, except for the commutative. Commutative PP relativization, either in Dravidian, or in Indo-Aryan, or in Mon-Khmer, or in Munda languages. In any family, commutative is a tough nut to crack. It's not only here, it is found in other languages also. If I don't have the time to talk about it, but you can make a note of it. The commutative PP is not in any way thematically linked to the embedded verb, whereas an ablative PP or locative PP, instrumental PP, allative PP, they're all connected thematically. How? Let's take the locative. The boy sat on the chair on which the boy sat. So here, chair on and sit are thematically linked. Whereas the commutative PP, the boy went with the girl to the movie. So with the girl is not thematically linked because go cannot accept it as an argument. Okay, next one, please. Another interesting thing is, the locative PP modification. Then what we notice is reduplication is a very powerful strategy in South Asian languages, not only at morphological level, but at the syntactic level. One of the examples is partial reduplication of the head in Sema, a language spoken in Nagaland, and free relatives, as we will show in the second part of the talk. It's such a productive process. Everything is repeated. The verb is repeated, negative is repeated, we will proceed further. Thank you. The next one, please. Next one. Yeah. We can, yeah, no, let us take the externally headed L2 clause. The head is overtly present in the matrix clause and it is co-indexed with a covert operator in the embedded clause, S2. Okay, next one, please. Yeah, you have a sentence. Can you make it bigger slightly, please, or it's not possible? The tiger which Lala killed is from this forest. Here, the tiger is the subject of the embedded clause, okay, and that is the head of the L2 clause. Okay, yeah, yes, this is better now. Here you can see the tiger, which is the yeah, you can see tiger here, Sakai, outside the S2, and it's part of the S1, and Lali killed the tiger. You have, that is the embedded clause. So this is what this is object NP as the head of a relative clause. This is an externally headed relative clause. Can we proceed now? Next one, please. Now, in an internally headed clause, relative clause, the head is present here in the embedded clause, and in the matrix clause, you have a null element. I have put it as 0, and the matrix null element is co-indexed with the embedded clause with the null element, with the NP in the embedded clause. Okay, next one, please. Okay, now can you project it bigger? It's not possible. Here you can see Sakai, which was outside. Thank you. Here, Lala in Sakai Aitat Chu, He Rama, Mi He Ani. Okay. Now Sakai earlier we have seen is outside S2. Now Sakai is inside the S2. Another thing you see, there is a cleft marker. This cleft marker is unique to any South Asian language because whenever you relativize a non-subject, that is object, that you have a marker that is left there with the verb. Of course, this cleft marker is optional. So, so you can see the cleft marker E. This is not found in Mizo or any other Tibeto-Burman language. We have a lot. So what we argue, there is a paper by Rajesh Bhatt, myself, and Vanlal Bapui, and Vanlal Mar, where we argue that whenever there is a non-subject relativization, a non-subject as the head of an internally headed relative clause, then the cleft marker occurs. Can we proceed? Yeah. Another thing is, notice that you have the embedded verb, which is non-finite in non-subject relativization. Okay, but on a non-finite stem also, you can have the agreement marker that occurs, and an ergative marker also occurs when the stem is non-finite. Next one, please. Yeah, next point is, the next question that comes is, two Tibeto-Burman languages have full-fledged relative clauses, that is the relative correlative clauses, like in Hindi, Jo, or Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, with a linker O. And yes, they do, but which languages have them? The languages which have come into contact with an Indo-Aryan language, such as Assamese, they have another language called, most of you know it, Nagamese, where Nagamese is a kind of form of Assamese. It's a kind of Creole. So the Naga speakers from Nagaland used to learn Nagamese. So Nagamese has relative clauses. But what they have evolved is, in the Naga languages, and in non-Naga languages such as Missing, Rabha, Kokborok, that have been in intense contact with an Indo-Aryan language such as Assamese, you find the relative correlative clauses. But the relative correlative clause is a non-indigenous strategy. It is borrowed from outside. So their strategy is to have externally headed relative clauses, which is like a participial strategy, or internally headed relative clause, which is like a participial strategy, except for the fact that the head in an internally headed relative clause occurs in the embedded clause. Next one, please. Thank you. What happens when you have a relative clause with when the head is definite? Naga languages, since they borrowed the strategy from Indo-Aryan, they don't have a relative pronoun. No Tibeto-Burman language has a relative pronoun like Joe type. It's like Dravidian, where we are using question words as relative pronouns. However, you can see there is a relative linker here, akino, that links a relative complementizer, that links the subordinate clause with the main clause. It's exactly like the linker O in Dravidian. Can we move to the next one, please? Because that's where the interesting part lies. Keno. Yeah. In 1B, you can see whoever comes first will get the prize. Here you can see whoever is minus definite. So the dubitative marker comes here. In Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, you have the same marker of doubt. This marker of doubt has several functions. With question words it occurs. And what is fascinating is all the functions that the dubitative marker performs in Dravidian languages are performed by this dubitative marker, Kana. In other languages, there is another marker. I can't recall those things quickly. This marker performs the same functions. Now the question that comes, very important question, is Assamese does not have a dubitative marker. Only Dravidian has. And now Tibeto-Burman Naga language, the Naga languages have a dubitative marker performing identical functions like the Dravidian dubitative marker. What are the functions? I wonder who would come today. Next one, please. I think that's coming. I wonder who would come today. Who will come in Telugu or Tamil or Kannada in any Dravidian language? Okay, for example, you can say, I wonder who wants to come. In here, the dubitative marker is she. Okay, this is from Tenijie Angami Naga. Mimi Kevichusa works on these languages. Okay, next one, please. Yeah, next one, please. The dubitative marker, no. Okay. The marker kana occurs only when the verb is minus finite. When the verb is minus definite, sorry. Here you can see, this is again a semi-example. We can skip. Yes, please. Because there's lack of time. Yeah. When the head is definite, the dubitative marker is not permitted. Okay, next one, please. Next one, please. Yeah, Telugu example I have given. Edi kavalo adi tisko. Can you go down? Or let's take the Tamil one. Yaru anke mudali vandu. I can't see properly. Eruku, iruvaruku, our ticket Vangalam. Okay. Whoever comes first will get the ticket. All right. Yeah. So you have Telugu, Tamil, the O marker context in the Naga languages. Next one, please. Another interesting point is the Naga languages that are spoken in Manipur does not have the relative correlative strategy. Only the Naga languages that are spoken in Nagaland have the relative correlative strategy. Okay, next one, please. I can skip. Yeah, this also we can skip. I have already talked about it. Skip, please. you make it bolder? Yeah. Yes. This is again an EHRC where the subject is the head. Next one, please. We already talked about it. Now, cookie chain languages such as Mizo, Hado, Wi-Fi, MAR present two types of EHRCs, where these are called agreeing relative clauses. Another is non-agreeing relative clauses. That is agreeing externally headed relative clauses and non-agreeing externally headed relative clauses. Okay, internally headed relative clauses. Can we move to the next one, please? We will see the examples. I'm rushing, so my talk might be a bit.
Please, no need to rush.
People,
Sorry to interrupt
maybe
you.
many people.
Professor Subbarao, no need to
Okay,
shorten.
thank you. Because I lost the time.
No need to
Thank you.
skip
Thank
things.
you. Thank you. Okay, now there are two patterns. Agreeing EHRCs, that is externally headed relative clause. The embedded subject carries the ergative marker, and consequently, the embedded verb carries the agreement marker. Okay, so agreement subject, ergative marker and agreement marker go hand in hand. Then the second pattern is the non-agreeing clauses, where the embedded subject does not carry the agreement marker, and consequently, the embedded verb agreement marker. That means, yeah, next please, maybe we can see the examples. Next one, please, yeah. Okay, what does this show? That case and agreement go hand in hand. Okay, let's take the direct object. The ergative marker N on the embedded subject and the agreement marker third person singular A on the embedded verb are overtly present. Can we get the example? Next one, please. Yes. You can see the museum Zawasa is very big. Museum Zavan, the ergative marker, Ahmu, Kisa. By the way, here the verbs in the cookie chain languages carry the subject agreement marker, direct object agreement marker, that is there are pronominal clitics, and the indirect object agreement marker, again a pronominal clitic, even sometimes the oblique agreement with certain conditions. Let's not go worry about it. So in the embedded class, Zawa saw the museum. So Zavan, museum is a null variable there. Ahmum is big, right? So Zawa, the museum that Zawa saw is big. So you have the ergative marker and you have the agreement marker on the verb. Can you proceed, please? The next one. In the non-agreeing pattern, you don't have the ergative marker, nor do you have the agreement marker. Okay, can we proceed? Okay, earlier you saw Zavan. Here after Zawa, you see a 0. And you saw Ahmu. Here you see a 0. That means the moment the agreement marker goes, the ergative marker goes, or vice versa. What all we are trying to say is agreement and case marking are intrinsically linked. If one goes, the other goes. Okay, next one, please. I think I made the. However, there is one interesting example. When the subject is questioned in Mizo, Mar, Thado, etc., the subject agreement marker occurs on the verb. Does occur on the verb. Why so? I don't have the time to go about it, because when the subject is questioned, we say there is no movement. But when a non-subject is questioned, there is a bar movement. So when a subject is modified in an externally headed relative clause, the occurrence of the subject agreement marker on the embedded verb is prohibited. Okay, can we proceed? When a non-subject is questioned or relativized, the subject agreement marker indigenously, obligatorily occurs. So, subject relativization, questioning the subject in simple clauses, and the occurrence of the subject agreement marker or in complementary distribution in MISO and Wi-Fi, and possibly in the other cookie chain languages also. Next one, please. So what we find is there is a subject, non-subject asymmetry with regard to agreement in simple sentences as well as in externally headed relatives. Okay, please, next one, please. Yeah, we can omit this one now since we have talked about it. Okay, this also we can omit. That is Lala ate the fruit. Yeah, this also we can omit. Actually, the print is so poor, I don't know why. Yes, this one also. Can we do better? Yeah. So what is the explanation? When the subject NP is relativized, there is vacuous movement. And when a non-subject NP is relativized, the movement of the, yes, let's go up please. The movement of the operator is to an A-bar position to the spec CP. This is what the generalization we made at that time in 2012 and 2013 about A-bar movement and agreement in MAR, which is another cookie chain languages. Okay, let me repeat it. When the subject NP is relativized, there is vacuous movement, and when a non-subject is relativized, the movement of the operator is to an A-bar position to the spec of the CP. That's it. Next one, please. Somehow, yeah, by the way, relativization is free except for the commutative. All the NPs in the non-phrase accessibility hierarchy can be relativized. You take it, the nominate, the subject, direct object, indirect object, etc. Except for the commutative, I told you, because the commutative is not linked to the verb in any thematic sense. In Dravidian and Munda languages and Khasi too, they freely permit the relativization of an indirect object. That is like something like the boy whom I gave the book to. Nenu Pustakamu Ichina Abai. In Hindi, it looks a bit funny, not very good, elegant, but in some context, you can say in Hindi, Ram ke Hindi sikhaye hue bacche, where Ram taught Hindi to the children. So you have made the children as the head of the participle clause. That is a relative participle relative clause. But in Teniji, you cannot modify. Teniji is Angami, as it is also called. Teniji, you cannot modify an indirect object. For that, I do not recall exactly what explanation we have given. But in an internally headed relative clause, you can. So there are some cases where you cannot modify an externally headed relative clause, but you can modify an internally headed relative clause. Okay, let's take this one, Manipuri. Manipuri is the same thing. The person whom you wrote a letter to is very tall. Okay, let's skip, please. Next one, please. Okay, IHRCs, that is internally headed relative clause, where I mentioned that the head occurs in the embedded clause, and there are two types of IHRCs in Tibetan-Burman. Internal head overtly case marked, internally head overtly not case marked. Why overt case marking comes? Okay, let's take the sentence like Zova met the girl. That is Zova met with the girl. You have a post position in many Indian languages. Okay. The girl whom Zova met with is his sister. Okay. So that means Zova met with the girl. The with carries the object carries the post position with, right? In an internally headed relative clause, the girl whom Zova met with is his sister. So there, in the Naga languages, you have met with, the with is present in the IHRC. Whereas the girl whom Zova met with is his sister. In the Kukichin languages, that is Mizo, Mar, Wi-Fi, Aimol, Paite, Fado, in all these languages, you do not find the case marking on the verb. Why is it so relevant and important? There are some languages, Naga languages, which are spoken in Nagaland. And sorry, there are some Kukichin languages which are spoken in Manipur, where these language speakers are surrounded by the Naga language speakers, Mao, etc., Pomai, etc. So now, here, the internal head is marked in Naga languages. The internal head is not marked in the Kukichin languages. So we were working on a language called Monsang with Monsang Francis. Then when Mr. Bapui, another co-researcher with me, then what we found is in the Kukichin languages, no, the question is about Monsang and certain other languages. They themselves to be the speakers of a Naga language, familiar with their ancestral links, or because they are among the Nagas, for socio-political reasons, they claim that they are Nagas. So we wanted to test whether Monsang is a Naga language or is a Kukichin language. One of the tests we used is, let us look at the relative clauses in Monsang. If the internal head carries a post position, then it is a Naga language. If the internal head does not carry a post position, then it must be a Kukichin language. This is only one piece of evidence. There are a number of pieces of evidence we have provided to show in terms of verbal reflexives, verbal reciprocals, compound formation, etc., where Monsang clearly shows Monsang, Lamkang, and Aimol, and what are the other languages? Yeah, there are 5-6 languages. All these languages, the case marking on the internal head in an internally headed relative clause is not present. So one can use it as a strong piece of evidence to show or to demonstrate whether a language belongs to subgroup A or subgroup B. Okay, thank you very much. Next one, please. Okay, now we will see the internal head IHRC with an overt case position. Next one, please. Indirect object modification. Sanktam. Sanktam is a language spoken in Nagaland. It's a Naga language. We have done fieldwork there. And here, the person you wrote a letter to is very tall. So you wrote a letter to a person. So person to, that is the dative. So let us see what happens in Sanktam. Here, can you make it a little bit darker, please? Sorry, I'm giving you so much trouble. Nini Nistari Kang, yeah, Nini Nistari Kangi, Sheti Tra Ba Sa Kitang Shangle. Okay, the person you wrote a letter to is very tall. Then, because it is an internally headed relative clause, Nistari Kangi occurs in the embedded clause. And since it is an IHRC, it can carry the head of the relative clause, can carry a post position. So you have the post position Kangi. That means in Naga languages, in all the Naga languages, If an NP, which is the head, carries a postposition in an internally headed relative clause, then it is a clear test that the language undoubtedly is a Naga language. Okay, can we proceed, please? Sanktam Naga, actually. Okay, yeah. Next one, please. Now, what is type B? Type B, the head of the internally headed class does not carry a postposition. Okay, let's see the example. I think we have a meso example. Next one, please. Yes. The cow whom Lala gave food to died yesterday. Lala gave the cow food to the cow. To the cow is Kuma. But this is the pattern in the Kukichin languages, that is Mizo, Ahmar, Aimol, Paitoe, Sade, Wi-Fi. In all these languages, an internal head cannot carry postposition. So you don't see the postposition here. Here the cow occurs in the embedded clause as the internal head in an IHRC, but it does not carry the postposition. Thank you. Next one, please. Yeah, in a simple sentence, Lalan, Bong, Kuma, Bu, Apeg, Ta. That is, you have a native case marker, which is optional. There is another story about case marking in the Kukichin languages. I have another paper working, we are working on another paper. We'll talk about it some other time. This is not the right time. Why it is optional. Okay, thank you very much. Next one, please. Yeah, I already talked about IHRC with the clinic, so we can skip this. Yeah. Another interesting thing about the Kukichin languages is whenever you relativize an oblique PP. What are oblique PPs? Ablative, from the well, locative, on the chair, elative, to the school, commutative, with the girl, and elative, instrumental, with a knife. In all these cases, you have an oblique nominalizer that occurs with the embedded verb. This nominalizer is a very productive nominalizer because you have number of compounds in the Kukichin languages formed out of na. I just will show you that. It's very, very productively used in compound formation in Mizo, Wi-Fi, Hamar, and other languages. Okay. And all the compounds in these languages have a relative structure. I'll show you how it is. Okay. The knife with which Lala cut the fruit is sharp. Okay. Lalan, Thei. I used the wrong color for Lalan, Thei. I can't even see my yeah. Ai, Atna, Chamte Chu, Angei. So this na is the oblique relativizer. So if you don't have the na, Lala cut the fruit, it could be exactly what happens. No, you have to have the na. Thank you. Next one, please. Now I mentioned about compound formation. The oblique nominalizer na is very productive in oblique compounds. Can we proceed next, please? It could have a locative interpretation or instrumental interpretation or the commutative or the ablative. Okay. The compounds are like the productivity of relative clauses in the Tibeto-Burman languages is like, unlike very Indo-Aryan, it is like Dravidian, Munda languages, and Mon Khmer languages. In all these languages, the productivity, you can say, the chair on which I sat, I sat chair, right? Okay, that's the compound, that's a participle clause. In Telugu, I can do that. In Hindi, I cannot do that, because in Hindi, you cannot say, Meri baiti hui kursi. But in Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, Malayalam, in the Munda languages, and in Khasi, if I recall my data correctly, in all these languages, you can comfortably say, I sat chair, or I brought the water. In Hindi, you cannot say, Mera pani laya hua kuan, Mera phal kata hua chaku, or what else? Relative. Mera gaya hua school. You cannot say. In Telugu, Dravidian, and in the Munda languages, you can easily do it without any problem. Okay, next one, please. Yes. Let's take the verb for bakery. Take location. For location, what is the relative marker we use? The oblique relativizer is na. So chung, bread, ur, bake, na. The place where bakery. So bakery in its underlying structure has a relative clause. The bread, the place where bread is made, and because it is a relative clause underlyingly, you have to have the locative. Okay, next one, please. The na marker. Okay. Floor mop instrument. Can we, no, just sorry. Can we go above, please? Yeah. The next one. Truth, no, na. Floor mop, instrumental, mop. And no, hotel. What is hotel? That is rice eating place. Cho means rice. A means to eat. Writing cho, a na. Hotel. Or what do you eat? You use a spoon or a fork to eat. So, cho, a na can have two interpretations. Either it could be a hotel, or it could be a plate, or it could be a spoon with which you eat, etc. Okay. This is one thing very important I was mentioning to you earlier, that reduplication is a very productive process. So what does SEMA, a language spoken in Nagaland, do? SEMA uses partial reduplication as a strategy to disambiguate a sentence. Okay, let's see the next one, please. I'll come back to this again, this generalization. The well from which you brought the water which you brought from the well is dirty. Now you have you, no, azakiki, well, lono, from, this is an internally headed delta clause, so it can carry a postposition. So no, azakiki, lono, azi, CAK, keu, TA, mitemo. Okay, mita is not sweet, but it is clean. So, the head of relative clause, where the head is the DO, or it can also be the over the object, oblique object as the head, that is ablative. But what happens, since the direct object is thematically higher, the native speaker provides the interpretation to this sentence as a direct as the head is oh, mo, negative is there, not clean, dirty. Now, how does a native speaker relative-wise use this sentence to make the oblique object as the head? Oblique object cannot be the head here because in the thematic hierarchy, you have subject, direct object, indirect object, then the oblique object. So oblique object is thematically lower than the direct object. So direct object takes precedence over the oblique object. Next one, please. So to make this, to make the oblique object as the head of the relative clause, what this language does is, it does partial reduplication. It uses the Zaki key in the matrix clause. By the way, you might ask me, what is Azaki key? What is the A there? In Mizo, in many in Tibeto-Burman languages, you don't use the well, cow, land, house, etc. just as without any marker. This is called general, what did I call this? General GPM, general personal marker, generic personal marker. So you have to have the generic personal marker. So this is my house. Either you say with my, this is your house, this is the house. I cannot just say house. This is a bell. I cannot say bell in general. I have to say Azakiki. That means always that has to belong to somebody, a bell, a house, a field, a cow, a child, your son, your daughter. They are all intimate to you. So you have to have the generic possessive marker. Yes, GPM, generic possessive marker. So what you have here, you take a Zakiki, but use Zakiki in the main clause. So the head is repeated, but the head is partially repeated, dropping the general possession marker. Okay, so this is what I call partial reduplication as a syntactic strategy to resolve to achieve certain construction patterns which otherwise are not possible. For a Naga language, Sema language speaker, if this repetition does not take place, it will always be the direct object that takes the precedence, and only direct object will be there as the head in the earlier sentence as we have seen. Thank you. There is another issue I did not talk about, I may not be able to talk about, because if you want to make a specific NP as the head, you can move that embedded, the NP from the embedded clause, the head from the embedded clause to the matrix clause, to the left of the matrix clause, into an A-bar position, where that NP or the oblique object becomes the head of the relative clause. I am not going to this in case somebody is interested. We have discussed this in a paper in 2009 in South Asian Language Analysis volume. You can read that paper. It's on SEMA, how to disambiguate. Okay, thank you. Okay, can we just proceed? Yeah, this also we can omit. Next one, please. Yeah, I think we can omit these and let's proceed to the next file. I think can we go a little bit lower? Is there anything else? Yeah, I think done. Thank you very much. This is part 1 of my talk. If you have the patience, we can talk about part 2, which is really fascinating, because in no language, there are only 2 languages that have this kind of process. One is Peish, a language spoken in Honduras, I think. Another is Burmese. And the third set is the Caucasian languages, where repetition or reduplication is used not just as a morphological process, but it is used as a syntactic process. You will be fascinated to see that. So can we proceed to the next one, please? The next file. It's a Word file. Uma.
Yeah, Tejas, can you show the PDF file? I made a PDF.
Yeah, Word file PDF. Delhi is very hot. Today is expected 44. I think you people are doing better in the south. Yes, can we go to page 1? This is page 3, I think. Page 1 is not there. Yes. That is headless relatives, relative clauses in Tibeto-Burman. Actually, we are talking about the Kuki-Chin languages. And we are 3 people who are working on this. One is myself, another is Sontak. She is a Wi-Fi speaker. Wi-Fi is a language, not the Wi-Fi that we have. This is Wi-Fi, Vaipphei. Wi-Fi is a language spoken in Manipur. And the other author is Vanlal T. Bapi. He is Mr. Vanlal T. Bapi. He is a speaker of Mizo and Mar. He is a bilingual. So what we are going to talk about is, Uma, can the font be raised? Okay, next one, please. Yeah, can you center it? Yes, thank you. That's great. Oh, wow. I think I'll just take some examples and finish it because, yeah, in this section of the talk, we are going to talk about relative clauses where the head is minus definite. For example, in English, whoever, whatever, whenever, wherever, etc. In Hindi, jo jana chahe, jo bhi jana chahe, that is jo, either the relative pronoun is reduplicated or jo bhi, you put the inclusive marker bhi, you can say jahan bhi jana chahe, wherever you want to go, jahan, where, bhi, wherever, jo bhi, whoever, whenever, jab plus bhi, okay. So that is one strategy. What happens in the Dravidian, we use the dubitative marker that I talked about. Whoever wants to come, Evaru vastaro, Evaru is a question word because Dravidian does not have relative pronouns, and O is the marker of doubt. It's like a complementizer. It links the main clause and the subordinate clause. As I mentioned to you, O has a number of other functions. I have discussed them in my book, South Asian Languages. In case somebody is interested, you can see that. Now, in what happens in, let us say, in the Kuki-Chin languages, in Mizo, as we have seen earlier, they use the expression O type, the corresponding to our O in Dravidian is Kena. Okay, the moment you put Kena, that clause becomes an indefinite headed relative clause. Whoever comes, so you put Kana. Then what does what Kuki-Chin languages do? Okay, can we have the examples, please? Maybe Uma, I will finish in about 10-15 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So can you increase the font or can you do Yeah, thank you. Can you center it a little bit, please? What are the novel processes that each language adapts to explicate a specific, explicate an NP, which is a indefinite NP? So I don't want to talk about reduplication. Dr. Anvita Abhi has talked about it a lot. But my talk today focuses on the syntactic implications of reduplication. Okay. So can we go? Yeah, jahan, all those things are there. You can always see the paper. Next one, please. Thank you. Telugu reduplication of the question word. Yavaru, ekkadekada, ekkadiki, sorry, etc. So Telugu interestingly, ekkadiki we don't say, ekkadiki. The second post position is dropped. Okay. Next one, please. We can omit the Naga language also. Yeah, I have an example in the footnote from Macaulay's work. Can you go up, please, a little bit? Why the font is coming so poor? So, okay, can we proceed? Yeah, I think we can skip all these things. Yeah. There are two types of incorporation according to my analysis in Tibeto-Burman languages. One type of incorporation is the Baker type of incorporation, where the balance of a predicate is enhanced by one argument, or by addition it could be reduced by one argument, like the verbal reflexive. But there are incorporations in the Tibeto-Burman languages where you have, let us see, what are there? You can not only have incorporated postpositions in the verb, which balance, where balance increase takes place, but you have quantifiers, negatives, negative polarity items. All these are incorporated in the verb. Perhaps the Kuki-Jin languages have the richest form of the verb. You can see number 2. Yeah, can you just move a little bit, please? Just a little, yeah. Look at this sentence. The verb has about 14 elements. What are the verbs? You have plan, run. Can you give the sentence? Whoever runs with me, I think. Whoever runs fast. The boy who runs. Jova runs fast. He runs fast. Plan, run. Check, fast. But incorporated in the verb, adverb. Pui, with, incorporated in the verb. Tei, able, is in the verb. Bake, quantifier. Yet, NPI. Rain, negative. And next one, hrim, or ring, ever, NPI. Ang, future tense. Che, second person, direct object, agreement marker. I mentioned to you earlier. U, plural. There are about 13 to 14 elements that can potentially occur in a verb in all the Kuki-Chin languages. Perhaps this kind of richness is not found in any other South Asian language to the best of my knowledge. If somebody has any counter examples to what I'm, or supporting examples, you can let me know. I'll be very happy to know. Next one, please. Yeah, this is from Wi-Fi, which Kim Wi-Fi speaks. So you can see the number of particles there that are occurring, number of suffixes or verbal suffixes that are occurring. Okay, next one, please. Yeah, I have given a schematic representation. What can you have the verb? What can be there in the verb? Agreement marker, quantifier, plural marker, verb, again verb, incorporated adverb, incorporated commutative, postposition, incorporated commutative postposition, verb, negative, NPI, etc. I don't, my computer screen does not show the rest. Okay. Okay, next one, please.
Yeah, sorry for this. Professor Subbarao is joining with us in a minute. He lost the connection. Meanwhile, if you have questions and other things, can you please be ready with your comments, questions, and suggestions, or you can alternatively put them in the chat box. Yeah, sorry about this technical issues. Professor Subbarao has lost his connection. He's trying to rejoin. Meanwhile, if you have any questions and suggestions, can you be ready with the same? Alternatively, you can put them in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay, can you see me now? Can you see? Okay, good. Let's proceed. Can you proceed to further? Hello, can we proceed?
ತೇಜಸ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕೆಳಗೆ ಹೋಗಪ್ಪ.
You see on the screen adverb incorporation. That is where an adverb in 4a, he runs fast. Notice that fast can occur independently to the left of the verb, to the left of the agreement marker. But here, the fast is incorporated. So I call this incorporation as weak incorporation, which is non-valence changing. And Tibetan Burman is full of such incorporations where adverbs, negative polarity items, as I mentioned, and quantifiers and emphatics, etc., they become part of the verb. Okay. Here in 4b is very fascinating because, yeah, can we project 4b? Lalboi tai ahat hi. Here, a is the agreement marker. Hat is the adverb. He is the declarative marker. So what is happening? The adverb is taking the agreement marker, which is very rarely found in languages. Not only is the adverb taking, the verb tai, run, as a stem, it steps aside. So, lalboi, tai, ahat, he. So, now, Ma,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're calling me, right?
No.
Okay, I got a call. I don't know. It's a fiasco today. Okay, can we proceed, please? Next one, please. Yeah, next one. Let's go to the examples. Yeah, okay, look at this. This is important now. Now, when the DO is the head, what is the sentence we have? Whoever wants to take from me. Okay. Can we proceed? What is the meaning of the sentence? Can you push just a little bit up above so that I can see the meaning? You see, I work on these levels, but I cannot remember all the interpretations. Yeah. A little bit above. Yeah. Further, further. Yeah, please. I want to see the meaning of this sentence. Next page. Yeah. Lali takes whatever she wants from me. Below, please go down a little bit. The top sentence. Okay. Otherwise, whatever I give you is yours. Let's take number 6. Here, give is the verb, and you are modifying the subject object, right? Whatever I give you. That means the object I give you. Whatever object I give you. So the verb is reduplicated. I for singular, agreement marker. Give is piak. The verb is piak piak. And then chu, definite. This is what is bothering me to analyze, or bothering us, because chu is a definite marker. And whenever you say whatever I give you, whatever you take, whatever you eat, the head is minus definite. So this chu, which is a definite marker originally, has been now reanalyzed as a marker to demarcate the relative clause from the main clause. This is my interpretation now. Okay, let's proceed, please. Yeah, now subject. Whoever runs fast will get the prize. Here, what is the, here fast is incorporated in the verb. Like, let's say Lali runs fast. Lali, Atlan, Chak. Chak is the final element. The rule that these speakers follow, whatever is the final, ultimate element, that ultimate element is reduplicated. So let me repeat. Whatever comes in the embedded clause as the rightmost constituent or element, that element is reduplicated. So let's take a sentence like, he runs fast, Atlan, Chak. Lali runs fast, Lali, Atlan, Chak. Now, whoever runs fast will get the prize. So there is no subject. Whoever is an indefinite subject, right? It's a relative clause modifying an indefinite NP. So Atlan, Chak, Chak. That means adverb is reduplicated. A verb can be reduplicated, as we will see. Can you please? Yeah. Yeah, this is the same thing. Fast. Again, next, please. I have given by. Yeah, okay. Negative reduplication. Whoever does not run won't get the prize. Here, the negative is the rightmost peripheral element. So you repeat the negative. Low. Here the chu does not occur. I don't know why. I cannot right now explain this. Maybe chu can optionally occur. Mr. Bapu unfortunately is not here. He is a Mizo speaker. So I have to check with him whether after low, the demarcating definite marker or relative marker can occur or not. Okay, next one, please. Kim, are you there? No, she is also not there. Okay, now negative. Whoever does not run fast. Again, low. Next one, please. The moment you put reduplicate element, the head becomes indefinite. And this is not found in many languages. To the best of my knowledge, there are only 3 languages. One is Pesh, another is partly or weakly in Burmese, and the third one is this one. Now, oblique nominalizer, as you remember, I talked about he sat on a chair, the chair on which he sat, right? Zova, Shungna, Toki. Zova, the chair on which Zova sat. Okay, here the na is the element that comes at the end. Like chung na. Chung is to sit, na is the oblique one. So can we proceed, please? Yeah. Here the verb is reduplicated. He follows me wherever you go. Chia. Okay. And in Mizo Wi-Fi, oblique relativizer is yes. Can you move further? Up, please. Yeah. Here, he follows me wherever you go. You have 2 options. Either you can have the chia, go. What is the ultimate or the element in the embedded class? Na. You can have na also. So you have a choice when you have na na. So you can say, can you please? So you can see the first one, chia chia na, or the second one, na na. Okay, next one please. I is an adverbial marker. Next one please. Yes, I have given, we have given a table here. If the head of the free relative is subject, like whoever comes, whoever buys this car, in all those cases, the verb is finite. You remember we said that when the subject is relativized in the cookie chain languages, the verb is finite. When a non-subject is relativized, the verb is non-finite. Okay. So next one, direct object, indirect object. So the verb is minus finite. Okay. Next one, please. Yeah, here, oblique object, the verb is minus finite. There is a third strategy. You see, look at the richness of this language. How many strategies you have? You have, you can, instead of reduplicating, you can have a designated indefinite relative head marker. That is in means Wi-Fi, it is support. So he follows me wherever I go. Earlier we have seen either you can have chia chia or nana. But here what they do, the third strategy, you don't have to have reduplication. The reduplication is replaced by a designated minus definite relative head. Okay, that's what you see in 13, support. Okay, can you see the corresponding one, please? In Mizo. And what can it account for? Whatever he sits on, wherever he goes, with whatever he cuts the fruit, etc. You can have, yeah. So when next one, the commutative PP. Okay, just a minute. Sorry. Yeah, whoever can climb the tree, Tei. That's the last element. Can we go further, please? Up. Yeah. No, up means I mean earlier slides. Earlier slides. Okay, just a minute. You have been doing an excellent job. Yes. Whatever he wants, he takes it. Yeah. Whatever he wants, he takes it. Actually, whatever best he wants, he takes it. By the way, unlike Indo-Aryan and Dravidian languages, here the superlative marker and the comparative marker occur as part of the verb. The superlative marker in Wi-Fi is pen. So the superlative marker, he wants the best. Doi pen. So pen is the last element. So what happens now? The last element is repeated. So adoi pen, aki lakhi. Whatever he wants, he takes it. Okay. Next one, please. Model repeated. Whatever whoever can climb the hill can climb it. The hill or tree. Climb the, yeah. Here they can climb. Hill. Okay. Plang, I think. Hill. So he can climb. Okay. Tei, the capability. Okay. Next one, please. Okay. I think we have come to the end. Thank you very much for your patience. I have, these things are beyond my control. I think we have now seen, let me just summarize. There are two types of relative clauses with a definite head, with an indefinite head. Unlike many other languages, the one with indefinite head, since we have just finished it, there is enormous reduplication of the ultimate element, except in one case where the chair on which he sat, chiana. Okay. Other than that, chia, sorry. Other than that, you have reduplication as a productive strategy to mark indefiniteness. Okay. Then we have seen externally headed relative clauses, internally headed relative clauses. We have seen that in some languages, the internal head carries the postposition that denotes the thematic relationship with the embedded verb. In some languages, like the cookie chain languages, the postposition is not overtly present. And I think I have, yeah, the commutative PP is a different ball game, because the commutative PP, Lali went to the forest with his wife. So with his wife and go, are not thematically linked. Whereas Lali cut the fruit with a knife, cut and fruit and cut and knife are thematically linked. He brought water from the well, bring and well are thematically linked. So there is no thematic linkage with the commutative PP in any language. Therefore, the language has to adopt number of syntactic procedures to modify a commutative PP. That is, राम के साथ गई हुई लड़की, Ram gayi hui ladki. You cannot say that. In Khasi you can do that. In Manipuri you can do that. In Tibeto-Burman you can do that. How? By adding the verbal reciprocal marker. The verbal reciprocal marker works like a group marker. Like in Manipuri, Chat is the verb to go. Min is together. Chat means na is the infinitive. Chat means na is the ba is the infinitive. Na is the verbal reciprocal. Chat means nava. The girl with whom Lala went to the forest, Lala, Chatmin, Naba, I think Nupui. If there are Manipuri speakers, you should excuse me. I think Nupui. Okay? So I'm just recollecting the sentences from my memory. So this kind of modification is unique and not found anywhere else, in my opinion. Thank you very much. I apologize for all the inconvenience caused to you. And that made me also nervous. But Uma assured me, don't get nervous and do it peacefully and leisurely. Thank you, Uma.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for providing us a beautiful overview of relative clauses in Tibeto-Burman with plenty of examples from different language families. It was a very impressive talk indeed. Now the talk is open for discussion. Let us have some questions, comments, or feedback. Yes, Jay.
Well, Jay, I'll be happy to hear from you.
Bravo, I wanted to ask you, is the dubitative marker the same as the disjunction marker?
Dubitative marker is the same
as the disjunction marker. It is in Dravidian, no?
Just a minute. Give me a minute to think. Yes, in some languages it is. For example, I can think of missing, a language spoken in Assam. Yes, it is there. And it's a marker of doubt also in missing.
And that is.
And what is fascinating to me is how did these languages evolve a relative linker or the dubitative marker which expresses doubt to link the main clause and the subordinate clause in a relative clause which they have innovated. It's not their own creation, no, indigenous strategy. So all the many Naga languages spoken in Nagaland, for example, Angami, Sema, Kesha, and many other languages. I'm not able to remember the names. I worked on Ao. Ao has 3 dialects. All the 3 dialects, Monsang, Chanki, Chungli. In all these languages, they have the same strategy. You know, you cannot between the the contact between the groups is very limited. Then how did they evolve with the same type of strategy independently of each other in all these languages, taking the clue from Nagamese, which only has the Assamese type of relative clause, which does not have the dubitative marker? That's my question, which has been kind of puzzling me. Maybe somebody can suggest something to me.
You want to say something?
Amritavalli garu.
Bagunnarandi. Nice to see you, Subra garu. Very nice.
I can't hear you, but in case you get some clues, your ideas, please let me know. I'll be very thankful. I first wrote in my book that it is the mental capability of the human being to connect and relate seemingly unrelated things to a single item. But one of the reviewers said, no, this is too strong a statement, so remove it. So I removed it.
But I think Jayashivan Garu has some semantic analysis about why the question marker is also the disjunction marker. అండ్ డ్యూబిటేటివ్ ఈ రాహుల్ బలుసుది ఏదో ఒక పేపర్ ఉంది.
I cannot hear you properly, but okay.
I think some semantic analysis is emerging, which is connecting the many functions of these markers. వినపడలేదా నీకు?
Sorry?
He can't hear.
I can hear partly, but not very fully. I will call you up and find out more
Yes,
details.
yes.
Okay.
This connection
Thank
is
you very
not-
much.
Ah.
So,
Okay.
it's unlike the typical Indo-Aryan or Dravidian type of relative clauses. Tibeto-Burman has lots of fascinating and fantastic things. I have only talked about some things today because of paucity of time. Some of the issues have been talked about in my book, but now more and more are coming. So hopefully, let's see what happens.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Your
Yeah,
time also. There were
We
many
also
people-
got a glimpse of Sarla.
Thank you. Sarla is doing fine. Thank you.
Sarla was
Uh-huh.
fixing his
Uh-huh.
computer.
Yeah, Sarla was fixing because she attends more seminars, more talks. She gives more talks than me.
Yeah.
So she
Actually,
is quite
scientific.
savvy at these things, better than me.
Scientific. Yeah.
Thank you, Uma.
Yeah,
Nice.
thank you. Yeah, so thank you. Nice to see both Amritavalli and Jayshiran garu. So, any
Thank you
other?
for your patience.
Yeah, any other question from anybody?
I want to hear from the Kuki-Chin speakers or the Tibeto-Burman speakers.
Yeah, there were so many, but now we have 25. Earlier we had 40 of them.
I worked with almost quite a few Tibetan languages, of course, quite a few Indian languages too. And sometimes I cannot remember all the data mentally. I have to see. Burjan Nawarim, is it Manipuri? You are a Manipuri, right? Burjan Nawarim?
Yeah, so since there are no other questions, I would like to continue
Madam,
what, yeah.
Sorry, ma'am.
yes, please.
Thank you for giving this opportunity. Ma'am, my name is Indra Kumar Singh from Manipur. I am the native speaker of Manipuri. So,
Native
thank
speaker of
you.
which language?
Manipuri,
Which language,
Manipuri.
please? Manipuri.
Manipuri, yes.
Okay. I
Manipuri.
gave a
ma'am.
Manipuri example from my memory.
Yeah,
Tomba Chatmin Naba Nupui. Is it correct?
yeah, yes, yes.
The girl with whom, yes,
Yeah.
the girl
Yes,
with whom Tomba went. It's a very fascinating example.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Chat is
sir,
to go, Min is to, yeah, go ahead.
So, thank you for your presentation. This is a very nice presentation. Sir, I have a little bit doubt about the presence of these correlative markers in Manipuri, whether it is correlative markers or not. Say, when we say ngahangi police na fakiba nupadu sire, the man whom police arrested the other day died. Nahangi police na fakiba nupadu sire. Here, the embedded clause Nahangi police na fakiba is nominalized with the nominalizing
Yes, with the
morpheme
ba. Ba is your nominalizer. Yes.
Ba.
Yes.
Yes, of course. Ba is there. And then Nupadu Sire is the head noun, and Sire is this one verb. So fine, this is fine. This is actually externally headed relative clause. But my question is that sometimes we have the structures like Nahangi Nupa Police na Faki Badu Sire. Nahangi Nupa Police na Faki Badu Sire. That means that this ba nominalizer comes after the aspect marker ki, pa-kiba, and then do, demonstrative marker do occurs again. Here together,
Now,
ba
do is a different
nominalizer
marker,
and
right?
do is the
Do
nominative
is a
marker.
different marker, if I remember it correctly.
So whether this do is a correlative marker or not, I would like to know from you, sir.
Okay, I worked on Manipuri with Sarju Thokcham in 2000 until
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
2005.
also know that work. I already, yeah.
Okay, so unless I see the data, but it is not a correlative marker to the best of my analysis, knowledge and remembrance. Adu, like you have Adu, right? That one?
Yeah, do, not ado. Do, faki, but do.
What does do mean? Can you refresh my memory?
This is do is demonstrative.
Yeah, that's right. That's
So
a do
this
is a demonstrative. So it
demonstrative
cannot
answers
be,
is a correlative marker or not.
no,
I
no,
would-
no.
I'm not so
There are
sure.
no correlative or relative markers in Manipuri. Manipuri somehow escaped. Because escape means you were not in contact with Indo-Aryan
Yeah,
deeply.
but the
Interestingly,
structure
Naga
is
languages
also-
got it because of. Go ahead.
yes. And
Go ahead, please.
the structure seems to be internally headed relative clause. Nahangi nupa
Okay, can
pulis
you
na
send the
yes, sir. Yes,
No,
sir. I
no,
am a
we are,
genuine.
Indra Kumar, let's
Yes,
be very
sir.
clear. It could be internally headed, but it
Mm.
does not necessarily have to be a relative correlative clause. Not internally and externally relative clauses are not relative correlative clauses. For a relative correlative clause, you have to have a relative pronoun, which could be a designated relative pronoun or a question word, and there should be a correlative pronoun in the matrix clause. Okay, so I do not seem, if you can send me the sentence, I can analyze it for you and we can discuss. Okay, and send me your
Yes,
phone
sir.
number.
Sure.
also.
Sure, I will send you.
Yeah,
So thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
thank you. Where are you working, Indra Kumar?
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. I can't hear you.
Where are you working, Indra Kumar?
Yeah, I'm working at Tripura University.
Acha, Tripura. Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank
I
you,
think
sir.
Monsang,
There
Francis
is-
has a question. What is your question, Francis? I can't see the charts. Francis has a
Before,
question. No?
Vicham has a question. Vicham, do you want to?
Francis,
Vicham,
can you say it?
can you say it? He writes like, as presented, reduplication is involved to form a relative clause. Does nominalizer marker still suffixed the reduplicated verb? In Liang Mai, nominalizer is still there. If nominalizer is omitted, a marker hina must come. Can you say something more on this?
Yeah. The nominalizer also can be repeated because that's the ultimate item. If I remember, I don't know whether I have given the examples or not. A nominalizer is also repeated. Yeah, that you know what that Monsang, Francis, the na is an oblique nominalizer. It is repeated, right? But in Mizo, Mar, Wi-Fi, there is no other nominalizer other than the oblique nominalizer. Okay, let me just.
Yeah,
Think
Vicham,
about it.
Vicham, is that okay? Or any other questions or feedback?
Sorry, Chu is there. Vicham, Chu is there, but whether it is repeated or not, I am not able to recollect. If there is a.
Yeah, so sir, so what I want to ask is now the accepted pattern of relative clause in Tibeto-Burman language is nominalization.
Can you talk a little louder, Vicham?
Okay, I think this is the full volume.
I don't know. Then there's something wrong with my.
No,
my
please,
question-
please speak, Vicham. I can always relate to him. Yeah, speak.
Okay, so my main question is,
Yes.
without a
You can
nominalizer,
magnify it for me.
without a nominalizer, can we have a relative clause with only a reduplicated verb?
So his question is, can you have like without any nominalizer, can you have a relativizer only with the help of reduplicated verb?
Yeah, okay, let me tell you. The Kuki-Chin languages have a beautiful system where the verb has a finite form and a non-finite form. For example, the verb to sit, chu, finite, like he sat, Zova sat, Zova achu. but Zova wants to sit. Zova, Shut, Zovan, Shut, Adu. So the moment want to sit, the non-finite form comes. Similarly, Tha and That. So either it could be by tone. Sometimes the tone is used. These are called stem 1, stem 2 distinction in the Kuki-Chin languages. Okay. So you don't need a specific nominative marker in the Kuki-Chin languages. You can use by the verb. At and a. At is to cut. A. Finite. Okay. Atna. Okay. Eina. E is to eat. Eina means the one with which you eat, like fork or a spoon. Okay. But A is you don't have any indication. A is a finite or non-finite. Sometimes they use tone as a marker to distinguish a finite and a non-finite marker. Mitcham, did I answer your question?
Okay, yes. Thank you.
So,
Okay.
yes, Francis, probably that's the last question because we are almost here for 2 hours. Francis?
Yeah, sir, may I ask one
Okay.
question?
Please.
In Kuki-Chin languages, we usually have two ways of forming externally headed relative clause.
Which one? Which languages?
Yeah, two ways of forming externally headed relative clause, where
Yes.
the embedded relative clause can occur to the left of the
Yes.
oblique head noun and also to the right of the oblique
Yes.
head noun. So
Yeah.
I
But the
was
unmarked pattern is to
listening,
the
but
left.
I'm not sure that I speak or did you mention, sir?
Sorry?
Did
Uma,
you
what did you
mention
say?
this? Did sir mention two ways of forming externally headed relative clause?
You mentioned 2 ways or 2 strategies of forming externally headed relative clauses.
I mentioned,
not?
okay, let me tell you what. I mentioned with regard to the occurrence of the ergative marker going along with the agreement marker, and they are both being absent. This is a typical Kuki-Chin pattern. Okay. Now, the other thing is, what is the canonical position of the embedded clause vis-a-vis the head? Okay. The book that Zova read is good. Okay. So what will happen in Dravidian or in Tibeto-Burman? Zova read book is good, but Zova's read also can come to the right of the. Here Zova read is the embedded clause. It occurs Zova read Chu Lehkabu. So here the Zova read Chu Zova. What is the word to read? Yeah, I forget. Yeah. So no, Zir. No, not Zir. Zir is okay. Forget it. Zova read book 2. This Zova read can come to the right of the embedded clause. That's also a possibility. But the unmarked pattern is to the left of the relative clause, left of the head. Okay?
Yeah,
I
okay,
think
thank
Monsang
you,
also
sir. Yeah.
behaves like this. Monsang also?
Yeah, we have, sir. Yeah,
Yeah, no, left and right, both are possible, right?
both are possible, left and right. Yes.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that today.
All right,
Yes.
thank you very much, everybody. And it's going to be 1:30. We were here for 2 full hours, and I think only Professor Subbarao can keep the audience engaged like this for 2 hours. So thank you so much for your wonderful lecture and for a variety of examples and explaining different strategies. Of course, I think looking forward to some comparisons with Tibeto-Burman languages of the Himalayas, because we wanted to see where it converges or diverges with regard to relative clauses. I hope maybe
Comparison with what?
the Tibeto-Burman languages of the Himalayan region, because right now So we would like to see what is happening, especially with the Bodic languages, which are having striking morphosyntactic similarities with Dravidian. So I'm just curious what may happen. So since we do not have much time to explore this, but I leave it for future research of anyone who is interested, and maybe your insights on Tibeto-Burman languages of Northeast India will definitely help them to look into these things in other
Yeah.
languages.
What I want is more and more Tibeto-Burman speakers from there should come and take over the responsibility. You see, for me, imagine finding an informant or going to Nagaland, going to Mizoram, going to Manipur. These are very difficult. You know, it's not that easy. So I have spent from 1975 until now Khasi. I worked on Khasi. I worked on Panar. So from 75 to, that is 47 years. It was not easy. 40, 25, yeah, 47 years. It was not at all easy. But if these speakers can come up, they can come forward.
Yes,
It will
yeah.
be much better than our struggling to work on these languages.
Yeah, that is true. And
It was a great struggle, but I enjoyed the struggle.
that's true. But compared to earlier days of 1970s, 80s, now people have started working on Northeast languages, and also documentation projects are going on everywhere. So people, I think we in the next decade, we'll be able to see good work on not only on relative clauses, but different syntactic
Yes.
phenomenon of languages
Yes,
of
yes.
Northeast India. And also, like I
Definitely,
said, we
definitely.
also would like to see the Himalayan Tibeto-Burman counterpart, because we need to see the typological patterns there. So anyway, it was lovely listening to you as always, and I thank you so much for sparing your time and being with us and enlightening us on
Thank you very much, friend
relative
host.
clauses.
You all bore with my, what do you call it, ear problems, but thank you very, very much. I
No,
appreciate it.
thank you very
Thank
much
you.
once again. And I also thank the audience,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
everybody for being with us. Bye.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, bye. See you. Talk to you.
Thank you. We can, yes, with a big smile, let's enjoy it. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, bye. Bye.